station in Chicago and your source for all of your information on the community, right? No other radio station allows you to call in, talk about the issues unfiltered, express yourself the way you need to express yourself, especially in this moment that we are in right now. This is a historic moment. I think all of you guys realize this. We're all here because we're determined, along with our aldermen, to change Chicago forever. This is the moment to do it. And there's never been another opportunity like this. We got the ear of the entire world. I'm going to bring Pastor Daryl Jackson up here to welcome you to this incredible church. And I do want to say, in the spirit of Liberty Baptist Church, and Pastor Daryl's father, A.P. Jackson, who was a role model in my life, and I know many of you who remember Pastor Jackson. This church is an incredible church. This church was a host church to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King when he would come to town. And in that, I mentioned that to say this to you. There was a time when our community was split on Dr. King in this city. And there were pastors in this city who did not want to embrace this young brother from the South that was coming up, getting a lot of attention, a lot of publicity, wanted to stifle his voice because they felt like that he was young and getting too much attention and trying to rock the boat, right? There's a church on this street that changed his address because when they changed the name of the street to King Drive, did not want Dr. King's name on his church's address. Not Liberty Baptist Church, not A.P. Jackson. Embraced the next generation of leaders, right? And allowed for Dr. King to soar and be the leader that he was. So in that spirit, I introduce to you the pastor of Liberty Baptist Church, my brother, Pastor Daryl Jackson, everybody.
Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to Liberty Baptist Church. My dad used to always say that the church is more than just a meeting house for worship, but the church is a meeting house in general. There was a time when people needed information from the community. They came to the church, long before the TV, social media, and other things too. My brother is so right. Dr. King and my dad go back many years because my grandfather, D.C. Jackson, who first pastored Liberty from 1925 to 1950, was very close friends with Martin Luther King Sr. When my dad went to Morehouse, he joined Ebenezer Baptist Church under watch care. That's how my father got to know Dr. King. When Dr. King moved the movement here in 1966, he used our lower auditorium for his press conferences every Friday. And I remember many of the rallies, I mean, look, I'm 63, but I remember many of the rallies that were held here in this sanctuary with a young Andrew Young, a young Jesse Jackson, and all those good freedom fighters in the 60s. So we're just glad to host this meeting. This is not the first time that we've had politicians come to Liberty to sit down and talk and deal with issues. I remember so well in 2006, the last church rally that then running for Senator, Barack Obama, his last church rally was here at Liberty Baptist Church that Wednesday before the election, and now look where he is. So when word got to me, whenever, I have two aldermen here, whenever my alderman Pat Dow asked for the use of the church, the answer is yes. Well, the alderman is short because I live in the 6th ward, but we're not all aldermen tonight. We're just so glad they're here because this is a time where we need to stop talking at each other, talking about each other, talking to each other to get something done. Am I right? And look, the only folks who will help us is us. I'm going to say it again, the only folks who will help us is us. The only folks who will help us is us. So let's come together and remember, God is still on the throne. Welcome to Liberty Baptist Church, the church where our theme is loving God, transforming souls, and changing the world. You are at the Liberty Baptist Church of Chicago. I'm going to ask at this time that Minister Preston Smith will come, one of our associate ministers, to open us up with prayer, and then we'll turn it back over to our MC.
Thank you, Pastor. Let every heart, mind, body be still. Let every heart, mind, body be still. Good and gracious Heavenly Father, we say thank you for this opportunity to gather here at Liberty Baptist Church for this cause, for this reason, to find creative, progressive, cooperative solutions to bring peace to the turmoil in our streets. Lord, let us not be adversaries, but advocates for peace and justice and equality. Let us work together, bringing the best ideas, working with one another, not against one another, not looking for credit, but looking for glory, Lord, for all those who need it and seek it. For all those who are neglected and forgotten, Father, we just say thank you for the opportunity to serve Him in this way at this time. Be with each and every single one of us, now and forevermore. Amen.
All right, one more time, everybody. Thank God for being here at Liberty. I'm going to introduce to you the alderman, and then I'm going to have the host alderman, Alderman Pat Dow, come on up and say some words to you, followed by Alderman Sawyer. And then there are going to be questions. Alderman here to hear from you. You are here to hear from them and to talk to each other, with each other in this very important moment. Again, the host alderman this evening from the 3rd Ward, Alderman Pat Dow in the house, everybody. Alderman Burns is not here. From the 5th Ward, Alderman Leslie Harrison is here. From the 6th Ward, Alderman Rod Sawyer. From the 7th Ward, Alderman Greg Mitchell. From the 8th Ward, Alderman Michelle Harris. From the 10th Ward, Alderman Sue Garza. From the 16th, Alderman Tony Folks. From the 17th Ward, Alderman David Moore. And also from the 21st Ward here, Alderman Howard Brookins. With that, I will bring to the podium the host alderman for this evening, Alderman, 3rd Ward Alderman Pat Dow, everybody.
I'm Alderman Pat Dow. I represent the residents of the Great 3rd Ward, and I want to thank everyone here this evening for joining us tonight in this important community forum on public safety. I especially want to thank Pastor Darrell Jackson and Liberty Baptist Church. Liberty has been a beacon of progressive thinking and action for over 97 years, and tonight is no different. Under the leadership of Pastor Jackson, Liberty has opened their doors to us, and we thank you for that. We also want to thank Reverend Damon Smith, one of Liberty's associate pastors, who's the head of civic and community engagement, who helped us make these arrangements as well. You've met my colleagues, and it's important that they're here tonight, but I think the most important thing, I want to thank all of you for showing up tonight, concerned residents, concerned citizens, for answering the call and for being here. Tonight, we want to open a new dialogue and develop some solutions to increase police accountability. And we want to dispel this evening some of the rumors, some of the inaccurate statements, the rumors on the streets, that when you walk out of here, you know from our perspective how we see things. We're here to share information and inspire coordinated action. I know that many of you in the community in the city of Chicago are upset, angry, and frustrated. But as we go forward this evening to deal with the critical issue of public safety, especially in light of all that has happened with the police department, please let's remember, first and foremost, we're in the house of God, and that we should be respectful of each other. Now, Laquan McDonald, Ronald Johnson, Philip Coleman are all names that are on everybody's lips. They're on everybody's hearts and on everybody's minds. And we're reeling from the situation. And we all agree that there's an urgent need to rebuild the trust in the police department, which has been broken because of the Laquan McDonald shooting video, and others which have followed in the last couple of days. I'm a member of the City Council and also the Council's Black Caucus. And we, as a group of aldermen, early on and originally and persistently sought the resignation and/or removal of former Superintendent Gary McCarthy. And in light of the unacceptable situation, this is part of a troubling trend by the police department of mistreatment towards African Americans. I know that I speak for myself, but I also believe that we all wholeheartedly supported McCarthy's resignation decision in this room. We also supported the U.S. Justice Department inquiry into the McDonald's situation. I want you to know that we are going to have to work together. We have two options. One option is that we can fight and accuse each other. And the other option is that we can work together to make sustainable, long-lasting change in our city. So now, collectively, let's move forward. Let's try to repair the social fabric of this city, which has been deeply shaken. The whole world is watching Chicago. And we have an opportunity here to make comprehensive, cohesive community change. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but if we're willing to work together, the tragedies of the past, we can accomplish a lot in terms of equity and justice for our people. So with that, I do want to say one other thing. I want to apologize to my constituents, the third ward, that perhaps I could have had an earlier meeting. But we're here today to eliminate many of the misconceptions, the rumors, and plain flat-out lies that are on social media, in the community, in the media, and elsewhere about how we, the aldermen, handle this situation. And now for the facts. I'm going to ask my colleague, the Honorable Rod Sawyer, Alderman of the 6th Ward and Chairman of the City Council Black Caucus, to share with you some of the facts and answers and some of the questions about the shooting in the video, the settlement offer, and the aftermath that we're dealing with now. Once Alderman Sawyer has given us an overview, and you hear from other elected officials here, we want to hear from you. That's the most important thing this evening. We'll have open discussion. Alderman Sawyer.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Alderman Dow for allowing us to intrude upon her meeting. When we first had this conversation, Alderman Dow had informed us that she was going to have this meeting, and a couple of us asked if we attach ourselves to this meeting. We have one larger meeting on the south side instead of having a series of individual meetings, because we all felt that we needed to make this address to the citizens of the city of Chicago. And we felt that it was important enough where we can all get together and do this and have an honest conversation about what occurred. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room, because that seems to be, and quite frankly, I think it's diverting from the real true cause of what's going on here. The true cause is that we have young black men out here being murdered by the Chicago police. And it's been going on for a long time. With the advent of video, we're able to provide proof that it's occurring. And I'm happy about that. Nobody wants to see a video of a child being executed on the street. But with the advent of video, we can finally have proof as we approach the Chicago Police Department and forcing them to make changes. We can always rely upon these videos to show that it does occur. And we know it occurs a lot. But I want to address this one incident, one event, and just one small part of this Laquan McDonald case. And it involves money. And I know I don't like to talk about money, but as members of the City Council, we're financial stewards of your money. And part of our responsibility, as difficult as it may not sound that difficult, but it is, we have to balance the interest and the outrage that we all have with being financial stewards of your money to make sure that we make proper decisions. So I want to just briefly go through a chronological timeline on what occurred as it relates to Laquan McDonald and the civil case. And we're talking about just the civil case. More importantly, there's an upcoming criminal matter that's going forward, which hopefully will result in the conviction of an officer, a former officer, we hope, and I hope that he'll be spending a long time in jail because of his misdeeds. through, obviously we know that on October the 20th, 2014, which was just months ago before the settlement, we know about what happened regarding Laquan McDonald. In February, or prior to February, an estate was opened on behalf of Laquan McDonald, and the independent administrator's name was Tina Hunter. She opened a probate matter and had attorneys represent her in opening the estate. Shortly thereafter, in February of 2015, the attorneys for the estate of Tina Hunter approached the city of Chicago and asked that they have a meeting. The purpose of the meeting was to inform them that they were representing the estate of Laquan McDonald, and they had every intention on filing a lawsuit, and they had videotaped evidence of the occurrence. Based upon that, and this was in February 2015, so I want you to understand the timeline. Also, we also knew around that time, we became aware later, that there was an active federal and state investigation as it relates to the officer at that time. When they approached the Corporation Counsel's office, the Corporation Counsel's office was privy to the tape, and they immediately started initiating settlement discussions. The initial settlement discussions had the plaintiff's attorney asking for $16 million in claims for damages in response of the unjustified killing. And I just keep saying execution, assassination, you know, it was wrong. And we know that they had videotape proof of that. After about a month of negotiation, the city and the estate for Laquan McDonald agreed upon a figure. That figure was $5 million. Based on the history of settlements in the area, it was consistent with other settlements in that, based on what occurred. So the Corporation Counsel tentatively agreed to the settlement, subject to the approval of the Finance Committee and then the full City Council. One of the provisions, and I want to stop for a second. Those that don't have a copy of the transcript, there's a copy of the transcript of the Finance Committee meeting, which the meeting occurred on April 13, 2015, that everybody should get a copy of. And we're going to go through it very briefly, but I would ask you to read it in its entirety. It's very short. It takes probably about 5 minutes to read it from front to back. But during the course of that investigation, in February, they were negotiating. They negotiated for about a month in March when they came to that figure. One of the conditions on the settlement is that the matter be settled quickly. The first day that was available to settle this case before the Finance Committee and City Council, which would have been the following month, which was April. April 13th is the date of the hearing of the transcript that we have in front, hopefully that you have in front of you. In the transcript, Steve Patton stated, and those that were members of the Finance Committee were present at the meeting, and Steve Patton stated a variety of statements, made a variety of statements. But included in that, if you read the transcript, and I'm going to, I would go to, for example, page 6, which let's get to the meat of the matter. You go to page 6 of the transcript, line 3. Mr. Patton stated, in any event, the shooting officer exited the vehicle, gun drawn, and then shot Mr. McDonald 16 times, all of it captured on videotape. What preceded the shooting is disputed between the plaintiffs, and in this case, and the shooting officer. It will proceeded after that. It states what the shooting officer would state that he stated, and then it would state what the plaintiff stated that he stated. If you continue to read the transcript, obviously you can see that Steve Patton favored the version of what the plaintiff stated, even though we represent the shooting officer. It goes on to say that on page 7, line 7, the estate or plaintiffs will also argue that their position that deadly force was not justified is demonstrated by the conduct of the other officers at the scene, none of whom fired their weapon at McDonald. So out of all the officers that were there, we all know that based on the videotape evidence and the statement that was given to us at City Council, that no other officer fired at McDonald. There was one. Now, we're not saying that those officers are not complicit with what goes on. We're just laying out the facts for you to understand. Because they're just as complicit, in my opinion, as the shooting officer. So it goes on to line 21 on page 7. And it states, so the plaintiffs will contend, if this matter were not resolved, that the unreasonableness of Officer A's conduct is shown by the restraint that was demonstrated by the other officers, other 5 officers, none of whom discharged their weapons. Finally, the plaintiffs will point to the fact that there were no pedestrians, automobiles, other folks who were near McDonald at the time he was shot, and as to which he might have imposed an imminent danger. So that's why we think the settlement makes sense on the issue of liability. This is what we were heard at Finance Committee meeting and subsequent City Council meeting. So we thought that we felt that it was in our best interest to settle this matter quickly for the reduced value, because had we known, if this case was filed, and with the emotions that are riding high right now, if this case was filed and the videotape was admitted into evidence, we would be talking about judgments of $50 million, maybe $100 million. So, as outraged as we are, just like you are, we have to exercise some restraint and protect your money, your finances. So we felt that it was in our best interest to settle this matter for the amount of $5 million, inclusive of fees and costs. Additionally, had we had gone to litigation, we had to hire outside counsel, would have cost us another hundreds of thousands of dollars. And let's be honest, we would have lost. It's clear, based on the videotape evidence. This was a losing case. So we thought that just in the interest of the taxpayers, this was a sound fiscal decision. Now, I want us not to lose sight, again, on the matter that's before us. The shooting of these individuals, and it's not just upon McDonald. We know there are many, many more. And we continue to be outraged, and we're frustrated just like you are that we had to pay over $500 million in settlements over the last decade. That's unconscionable. But that's the culture of the police department that we're left with. And I'm hoping that with the federal investigation and everyone coming forward, we can really get to the bottom of what goes on. We can correct the culture. And let me just make one personal note, because I've talked to some of my colleagues over the last 2 days, and they've been trying to talk to young men and women about joining the police department. And I know that's a hard ask right now. But we can never change the culture of the police department if we can't get our people there. So I would encourage those that are physically able to take the test to please consider that. We need you, our young men and women, to dispense justice on our behalf. We can never do it with the culture of the police department as it stands right now. We know it didn't take one day for us to get it this way, and it's not going to take one day to change it. But in order for us to change it, we need you to get involved in it. We can change it from the inside, we can do what we can on the outside, but without people being there and being present and being active, it will not work. Thank you.
Guys, I do want to bring up Alderman Garza, Sue Garza from the 10th Ward. She has a school meeting going, a LSC meeting going on, a community meeting going on in the 10th Ward. She's got 200 of her constituents there talking about the future of Washington High School, and you know they are going to be looking for their alderman. She is here to represent and be in unity with her Southside alderman, so I just want to give her an opportunity to say some quick words to you guys before she addresses her constituents. You know they're looking for over there.
Thank you so much. I am very, very proud and humbled to be here today. Thank you, Alderman Dahl, for putting this together. I'm really glad that I can be part of this. I too, like my colleagues and my friends, are appalled at what I saw when I saw this video. But you know what, brothers and sisters, we have to use this incident to not just ask for resignations, but we have to use this to create change throughout the system. This is something that we have to keep the people's feet to the fire and make sure that we create systemic change from within. We need to do that now because we might never have this opportunity again. And we have to make sure that people know we're serious. I too am very disgruntled by the way that this case has been handled. And I can guarantee you that you have a voice in City Council, and I will make sure that change occurs. Because one thing I know, there's some good police officers out there, and there's some good state's attorneys out there. And we have to stop, and we can't continue with this culture of silence, and you're a whistleblower if you say something, because there's some people out there that want to say something, but they don't want to be ostracized, or they're afraid. We need to make sure that it's okay to let them know that it's okay if they stand up, because they're out there, they want to do it. So let's stand up, let's stand together, and make sure that the change we see in the future is something that we insist upon.
All right, everybody, give it up for Alderman Sue Garza. Now, we are here because the aldermen do want to hear from you guys. I have a microphone in my hand, and you guys have one of them? Okay, cool. So the aldermen have microphones. Here's a third one if you guys need it. The aldermen need it, you guys can grab this one. So, that's how we're going to do this. I'm going to ask people to come to the aisle as we walk in, and I'm going to start with the young lady right here. We're going to work, and I'm going to ask everybody to try to be as brief as possible with your questions and comments. All right, this is cool. 2 minutes? All right, this says 2 minutes. Good morning. Good morning. I'm just doing the morning show. Introduce yourself and your question.
Yes, good evening to everyone. My name is Gwendolyn Dees. And there has been a prepared statement from our community. And the prepared statement goes like this. We no longer have confidence in Mayor Ron Emanuel. He has proved time and time again that his judgment is abysmal, downright appalling, and insulting. He said that he was going to fix it. You don't go to bed at night with imprudent judgment and wake up the next morning with exceptional decision-making skills. We, the citizens of Chicago, want to play a deciding and binding role in who sits on the police board and who will be the people, the members of IPA. Thank you.
All right. Do you guys want to respond to that? As I make it, I'm going to go, just so you guys know what I'm doing, I'm going to go from this side. We can do that. If somebody wants to say, and I'll go over here just for getting this done here. Brother, introduce yourself and your statement, please, your question. And 2 minutes.
My name is J.R. Fleming, the Executive Director of the Chicago Anti-Eviction Union, as well as a Human Rights Monitor with the Chicago Independent Human Rights Council. My question is, when do the black get a settlement from suffering from police daily harassment? Young African American males are being locked up for trespassing in their community, trespassing in America, which I still haven't figured out. When do the black community get all of it to stand up about the culture of corruption? This is not isolated to the police department. There's a culture of corruption that exists in public housing where African American residents are denied opportunities to affluent communities. There's a culture of corruption that exists in public housing where workers, residents are denied access to contracts and opportunities. So when do we get the aldermen to stand up and demand that a federal investigation go into the history of corruption that has led to African-American youth having a 94.8% unemployment rate between the ages of 16 and 25. They gun in the back.
All right, good question. Good question, Alderman. Anybody wants to know beyond the police department, the city, in his opinion, is rife with corruption. How do we address more than just the police department? And any of you guys can tackle that as I make my way over here. Oh, anybody can just come. All right. So the question basically is, beyond the police department, corruption, housing, contracts, everything that leads to the economic corruption that goes on in Chicago that leads our young people to violence.
We want a consent decree on all that.
Right.
Mom.
Okay, I'm the Alderman folks from the 16th Ward. I always say, when I gotta talk, I was a community activist, and I say Alderman folks have just left the building. This is Tony folks speaking, and I agree 100% of what you're saying. And the good thing, if anything is good that God wants to come out of this, is the exposure. We work on that. We're working for us with CHS. We got $430 million sitting there. We're working on that. So you can talk to me about that. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And I'm sitting in council and the money that we're paying out. One time I just sit there and like, well, how can we do this? You know, how can this just happen that, you know, it just goes by us? But we need you guys. It's corruption in our community, so, and I mean, I'm gonna just tell the truth and say in church. Okay? We got our elected officials, some of them are crooked. God forbid, there's a special place in hell for some of these pastors. They came at me because I was doing right. $500,000 because I was doing the right thing, because I was fighting for people. So anybody, I mean, and to our young people, whoever was out there marching, thank you. See, because I was born in '64. My parents marched for me. I didn't start kicking in doors till I was 25. Okay? So I came in with a target on my back. But now it's time for us, this is the best time for us to get together and work. Don't just go to the polls, vote, and walk out the door. They come in our communities, they pay people for the good ones against us. We sell our souls for $10 a vote, a turkey. Let's tell the truth and stay in church. It's some things I can't say, so I'm gonna shut up. Well, before I get there, because I'm in church.
Keep on the talk, you tell the truth.
I just want to say that not everything that,
Everybody, hold on.
not everything, all the ills of the community and of the society can be laid at the doorstep of the alderman, okay? So we have to acknowledge that. And on the public housing piece, when you talk about contracts in Section 3 not working, for example, that is something that has